Oh, there you go.
Great. Okay, so you were speaking about you talking about how we were united or we were separate, and then you bring it together.
So if you sit back and you think about in the 50s, early 60s, we had unification amongst us. We had respect for one another as Black people.
Yes, sir.
Then they came in with this divide. They divided us like they did back in slavery. They divided us. They told me one thing about you. They told you one thing about me. They created friction. Who gonna get the job opposed to who's not gonna get the job? So they planted seeds. But I tell individuals, I say the essence of 1968 was, if you hold your hand up, just hold your hand up for me. Okay? Like that. All right, now you see how there's 5 individuals there, but they're separate.
Yeah.
Roll them together and make that fist. You feel the difference in the power when they were separate than how they are right now as a power base, that fist? That's the essence of unity.
Yes, sir.
If we don't have unity within our own race, and we know that everyone is coming against us as individuals, what's taking us so long? That's not hard math for us to figure out, that we have to come together in order for us to move forward.
Definitely.
If we never knew before, if anyone wants to say I'm sitting on the fence because I don't think that white people are trying to hold us back, if you can't see what's happening today, then you need to get your ears cleaned and ears and eyes cleaned out, because you're missing the essence of what's happening in life right now for Black people. We're on the brink. Like for instance, I'm happy that people are excited about the fact that they made Juneteenth a national holiday.
Mm-hmm.
But yet and still, we didn't need a national holiday. We celebrated that day on our own. How are they going to give me a national holiday and don't give me reparations for what this holiday is all about?
Wow.
Every other people that was oppressed, they gave the Indians something for what they did to them.
Talk about it.
They gave the Chinese something for what they did to them. They gave the Jews something for what they did to them. But us, they're going to give us a holiday. And anytime we raise the question about where's my reparations, they're going to say, well, you have a holiday. Oh, what about my 40 acres and a mule that was promised to me? Well, you have a holiday. Yeah, they still have us in the mood not to knock anyone's religion, but they have us going to church to pray while they plan. We pray while they pimp. We pray while they game on us.
Yeah.
We go in Black churches, man, years ago in the 70s and 80s. If you went to a Black church and said, man, that Jesus up there, God is Black. A Black church would tell you to pack your bags. Don't never come back to this church again. These are the type of things that they impressed upon those individuals that are supposed to be our teachers. So until we wake up and realize, hey, man, I beg to differ. This is the way I see it. And let's have some dialogue. Let's have some discussion about it. But we don't have discussion. We have separate situations. The politicians, they don't want to get together with one another. The gangbangers don't want to get together with the politicians. Politicians don't want to get together with the parents. It's all separate entities that we into. And as long as we are separate in those entities, we're never going to come together to be the base and to be who God intended for us to be on this earth. It's in our hands. Nobody can do it but us. We got to do it for ourselves.
Right. Now, going back to, growing up with your father, you talked about in one interview that, he kind of, spoke, the same things Malcolm X spoke, but you said that Malcolm X was more articulate in the way that he spoke. Talk about, Malcolm X and people like, you got Martin Luther King on the wall behind you, their impact, and how was the times back then when they were trying to get the message out to Black people?
Well, first of all, I had a vision when I was a kid, like 7, 8 years old, and what happened in Mexico City, that was part of the vision that I had as a kid. All right. But on the way to this vision, it was very clear to me that I was going to meet certain people along the way. And from that vision, man, and I had this vision when I was like 7, 8 years old, somewhere in there. But from that vision, everything in my life has been like a stairway to Mexico City. And then you think it was going to level off when I got to Mexico City, but it's still climbing.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this in essence. My father used to tell me about race relations when I was a kid. When I asked him, I said, Pop, why are all the white folks leaving Lenox Avenue? He said, son, I don't know why they're leaving or where they're going, but I would surmise that they're leaving because they don't like the fact that the domesticated workers are now their next door neighbors. Well, who were the domesticated workers? You and I. So they decided to have white flight. Let me turn my speaker down a little bit. They decided to have white flight. So when they had white flight, then there's black communities. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, sir.
You good to go.
Yeah, so when they had white flight, there was specifically that black community. Like I told you, there was black merchants. Like my father was a merchant. My father had his own business. He was a shoemaker, a cobbler. We had another guy next door, Mr. Branch. He had the cleaning business. Okay, so we had black people that had entities. But then all of a sudden, when the white folks left, then they came in disguise. So we'll put a black face there, but we'll still run these businesses. They'll still be our businesses. So then I hear my father teaching me about, well, son, you're not going to be able to go to the Olympics because the first time I heard about the Olympics, I heard about a woman swimming in the English Channel. Well, I was the best bathtub swimmer in Harlem. Why is she swimming in the English Channel? Well, son, she's swimming probably because she's going to get recognition. I said, well, does she get any money? Does she get a name in the paper? Does she get a trophy? My old man said, son, I swim like a rock straight to the bottom, but I'm going to find out for you. Well, when he went to find out about this woman swimming in the English Channel, the Olympics came across the radio. At that time, the radio for us was our TV. The Olympic Games. Hey, Pop, what's the Olympic Games? He said, son, that's when the greatest athletes of the world come together. Stronger mind and stronger body. I said, Daddy, did they have swimming in the Olympics? He said, yes. I'm going to be the first black swimmer to represent America. Because I asked him, did they ever have a black person to go to the Olympics to represent America? He said, no, I'm going to be the first, Daddy. I got psyched up about that for a year and a half. And one day my father stopped me and he said to me, son, we need to talk. And you can look in your mother's eyes or your father's eyes when they have to tell you something that's going to hurt them and they know it's going to hurt you. And he said to me, he said, son, you're never going to go to the Olympics as a swimmer. Why not, Pop? He said, because they don't allow blacks to get in the pools. And I don't know whether you guys, where you guys located? In New York or where?
New Jersey. New Jersey.
All right, were you familiar with Harlem?
Mm-hmm.
There was Colonial Pool right there on 145th Street. And then there was High Bridge Pool up there where the Armory, 168th Street Armory is. Well, my father said to me, he said, son, when you and your buddies go up to High Bridge Pool, he said, what happened when you and your buddies jump in the water? And as soon as he said that, you could see the people telling their daughters, Betty, get out the water. Bobby, get up, hurry up, come out the water, come out the water. We saw them doing it as kids. We said, man, that just give us more room. But yet still, I'm looking at them saying, you running for me, but I see you putting all kind of oil on your body so you can look like me. So I'm really confused. Then all of a sudden, I hear this guy on the radio. Wow, man, who is this guy? He sounds like my father. Pop, who is this guy here? He said, oh, he's a young minister coming in to take over the mosque on 116th Street. I said, what's his name? He said, his name is Malcolm X. I said, Daddy, I want to go down to the mosque and hear him speak. My father said, nah, son, you don't need to go down there because you can go down and get yourself in trouble. But I listened to him a couple more times on the radio, and I told my father, I said, Pop, I got to go down there. I have to go. He looked at me, he said, all right, son, you can go. He said, don't go down there and get in no trouble. And when I went down there, the first day I went there, man, they had these wooden chairs. They used to fold the wooden chairs up, setting them up for the people in the audience. And I remember asking two old men, they were sitting on the front row. And I said to them, I say, excuse me, who is Malcolm X? And they said, there he is over there. And I looked over there and I said, which one? They said, lights going right there with the glasses on. I said, man, that's not Malcolm X. And they said, what do you mean it's not Malcolm X? I said, man, that's not Malcolm X. They said, why not? I said, man, he's too light-skinned to be Malcolm X. As black as he was blue on the radio, there's no way in the world he could be that light-skinned. They said, no, that's Malcolm X. He went to the podium. He wasn't there 10 seconds. I knew it was him. His articulation was so strong. his message was so powerful. And to me, his message was so clear in terms of who we are and what we need to do to get ourselves on track. So then I started going down there. I went down there the third time, and I got enough nerve to approach him. Waited for him until he got done what he was doing, and I asked him, I said, Mr. X, is it possible I can go with you from this location to your next location? I'll never forget, man, I looked at the dimple, he had like a dimple in his chin. And he looks at me and he says to me, he said, well, why do you want to go with me? And I said, I have questions, or voids in my mind, and I'm trying to find answers. And he looked at me, he smiled, he said, if you can keep up. And it just goes to show what I'm talking about, that stair step, because I had two older brothers, they were real tall. And I used to go down to Central Park, and we would walk from 110th Street back to 153rd Street. And they would walk their big stride. I would have to run behind them to keep up. Mm-hmm. Well, with Malcolm X, he was a fast walker. I used to run behind him to keep up. But I learned so much in the year and a half that I ran with him. He gave me so much knowledge and so much insight in terms of who I am and direction that I had to have. And I realized a lot of things that he was saying, the same thing that my father was saying. Only difference is my father kept it in the house to make sure he protected his. Malcolm was on the radio protecting all of us if we chose to open our minds and listen to him. So then, as I began to get involved with the conversation with Malcolm, I realized about poverty. I realized about drugs. I used to go up on the roof and mess with them junkies up there, man. Make me understand why you shooting these drugs. Make me understand. They would chase us, get mad because we up there, they trying to cook up their goods. And then one day they ran up on me and I said to him, I said, man, I'm just trying to find out why y'all doing this. And the guy said, do you really want to know? I said, yeah, that's why I come back here every day. He said, sit down. And he says to me, he said, do you have a girlfriend? He said, yeah, I got a couple of girlfriends. He said, listen, man, I had a girlfriend. It took me 5 years to get ready to ask her to be my girl, to get my nerve up to ask her. He said, and when I finally did, surprisingly enough, she was excited about me asking her, as I was to ask her. She wanted to be my girl. He said, but then it took me another 2 years to get the nerve to say, hey, let's get married. He said, and she told him yes. He said, you know how I felt? He said, I felt so good. He said, I was going to be the best husband. I was going to be the best father. I was going to be the best provider for my family. I'm going to be straight on. My life is complete. He said, then, you get to the point where you go out and you look for a job. There was no jobs. He said, if you did get a job, man, the pay was substandard pay. And then you had to accept so much disrespect while you on the job. He said, then your woman go out and get a job and she's the breadwinner and they putting things in her head to make her think that she's the man of the family. A lot of men didn't know how to deal with that. Egos was fractured. He said, I didn't understand what was happening to me until something happened with my kids. He said, one day my daughter came to me. She said to me, Daddy, my birthday is next week. You told me you were going to buy me a new dress for my birthday. See, because when I was going to school, a little girl wore a dress every day to school. The mother would wash that dress every night and iron the pleats out. Make sure that daughter looked good. Daddy, you going to buy me that dress? Yeah, baby, I'm going to get you that dress. He walked down the hall, put his hands in his pocket. He said, he ain't got nothing in his pocket but holes. He said, before he could digest that, here come his son. Said, Daddy, my PE teacher told me if I don't get some sneakers and some shorts and a T-shirt, I'm going to fail PE. Daddy, I got to have some sneakers. You going to be able to get them for me? Yeah, son, I'm going to get them for you. He go down the hall again. He reaches his other pocket. He got bigger holes. So now the wife come to him and say, hey, honey, we've been married now for 15 years. Say our anniversary's tomorrow. What we going to do? And now he's saying, man, I'm downtrodden because he said, man, I don't even have money to buy my wife a rose for our anniversary. He said, now he's starting to look at himself like he is less than a man. And then he said to me, he said, for all these years, I would get up and I would go to the mirror. And I would wash my face, man, brush my teeth, do my hair, the whole 9 yards. He said, I never got in touch with the man in the mirror until this particular time. When I looked up, for the first time I looked in the mirror and I saw something that I didn't like. I said, what do you mean something you didn't like? That's you. He said, absolutely, it's me. He said, I didn't like me. I said, why didn't you like? He said, because I couldn't be a father to my kids. I couldn't be a provider for my family. So I couldn't be the man for my woman. I felt less than a man. And then he said, but the thing that made me realize that it wasn't me is after I went to the drugs. He said, because I went to the drugs because they made drugs accessible to me. He said, I went to the drugs because I thought it was a weekend trip that I could just escape just for this weekend. I didn't know that it was going to be the rest of my life that I'll be chasing that smack. And then I began to look at neighborhoods that had that same environment that the junkie on the roof told me. I went to people's houses, guys that I went to school with, was growing up with, and went to their house. And this is when I got in touch with the social service or the welfare situation at the time. I go to my man's house on a Saturday, and I hear a knock on the door, and a white woman stand at the door when his mother opened the door, and the mother says, hi, good morning. And the woman just brushed on by her. And I looked at her, I said, well, look at this. She goes in and looks under the sofa. She looks in the ashtray. She steps out of there. She goes into the bedroom. She's looking in the closet, looking under the bed. And I'm saying, man, what's going on, Dorian? What's she doing? He said, man, just watch it. Just watch it. Then it dawns on me. She's looking to see if she finds any paraphernalia of a male figure, like a man's trousers in the closet,
Right.
or slippers under the bed, or cigar in the ashtray. Because the system that was supposed to be built to help us because we were downtrodden economically was actually the system set up to fracture us, to hurt us, to stop us. How are they helping me when they're going to take the male figure out of the household and say you cannot have a father in the house or your subsidies are cut off? This is the type of manipulation that they do to us on a regular basis. But we as people, because we haven't come together to sit down at the table and discuss what's happening on your side of town opposed to what's happening on my side of town, we never know what's happening until we see it in the news.
Yes, sir. Now, you were just speaking on the divide, and we've seen that evolve throughout time. You look at it now, and I seem like it's more of a divide than ever before. It's like, all right, I'm not messing with you, you're not messing with me. All right, I'll go mess with this, the same sex, or I'll go mess with this. And it's just like the divide has gotten even worse.
Well, that's because they don't realize that black is black. See, they seem to think their life is saved years ago because I'm a sports person.
Yes, sir.
You're a sports person as long as you're in the arena and the light is shining on you. You can score the last touchdown or the last slam or hit the ball out the park. You're that superstar until you go in the shower, put your street clothes on, and leave that locker room door. From that locker room door to your car, now all of a sudden you become a black man again. Why you become a black man? Because you could die just merely because of the color of your skin. You just scored the last touchdown in the game, but they don't realize who you are until you get on the slab. Oh, it's too bad. You got caught up in the wrong day, the wrong situation. If you sit back and think about what I said earlier about the division that we have amongst ourselves, we don't realize that, man, regardless of what your status is in life, whether you gay or straight, whether you're a politician or a gangbanger, you understand, whether you fat or skinny, good looking or ugly, the bottom line is one thing that we can never deny, and that's that we are black people. And the same thing that happens to the gangbanger will happen to a politician. The same thing that happened to a poor man in the street will happen to a black billionaire. Ask Oprah Winfrey, did they follow her ass around the store in England? Ask Jay-Z, when you talk to Jay-Z and Beyonce, ask them, did they ever see any dirty looks at them when they moved them to a neighborhood that they could afford?
Yeah.
Ask them, what did they feel? Did they feel the vibes? They might not talk about it, but ask them when you get with them. Do you feel certain vibes coming to you like, we don't want you here, you don't belong here? Understand? It's a difference when you out there having a party and they knocking on your door telling you that your music is too loud, but yet still your neighbor across the street can have a party for the week, and the police don't go knock on his door, and then you realize, oh, well, maybe he's the right complexion for them not to knock on his door. So these are the issues that we have to be confronted with. You know, other issues like relative to individual that say, man, I have my eye on the prize or my hand on the prize right now in terms of black consciousness. How are we going to go and say I'm doing anything and everything to change the course of history relative to black people, and we don't put no emphasis on telling our black kids, go back to school. Go back to school with a driven feeling. Go back with a new paradigm about what education is all about. It's for our professional athletes. It's for our professional entertainers to encourage black kids to go to school with a different attitude about going to school opposed to going through school. Because many of us, even in your era, a lot of guys were brilliant, but they walked through school and never went to class. Now you sit back, you say this, I say, man, I know some guys that never went to school. It's 187 days that a kid's supposed to go to school. Kid was absent 180 days. His parents never got a call. Never had a letter home and mail talking about your son didn't come to school. So it looks like they're setting the stage for you to fail. We had to, as a collective group of people, those individuals that are so-called the superstars. Now it's time for us to be the real superstars and say, let me reach back and let me pull these kids up and make them understand the value of education. And not only make the kids understand the value of education where they can go back with a new paradigm about education, but it's your responsibility also to go to Washington, D.C., to the government and tell them it's your responsibility and we're going to stand here to make sure that you're doing your job now to circumvent this new education throughout the United States. Right now, because we are not taking the initiative, what are they telling you right now? Oh, we don't want you to teach kids about history. We don't want you to teach them about slavery. What do you mean? It's a part of American history. What do you mean you don't want them to teach? Oh, we don't want to look that bad. So if you teach it, it's going to create friction. That's more BS that they're giving you. Don't tell your kids about why you in this fight. And when you go to school and you learn about slavery, or you learn about Nat Turner, or you learn about Harriet Tubman, and then you have a clear understanding as to why you had to stay in this fight to win.